Hi, welcome to Real People. I'm Stephanie Allensworth. My guest today is a certified classical homeopath. Please welcome Kathryn Berg. Welcome to the show, Kathryn.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you because we've been focusing on health with this show lately. You know, this whole season has been pretty much about health and wellness. And, you know, Betty Jo connected us, so, excuse me. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the business, and what was your path to where you are today?
Okay. Well, like a lot of people who have an unusual career or a career, you know, that they really are passionate about, sometimes it happens by accident, which is literally what happened for me. So many years ago, over 30 years ago, I was out walking my puppy, and he was a pretty big puppy, and another dog was barking at him. It was a typical Minnesota winter day. He got excited, pulled me down on the ice. I ended up with a big bruise on my knee. And so I was going over to a friend's house later, and I asked her for some ice for my knee, and she said, well, you should be taking some arnica. And I'm like, some what? And so she told me about arnica, which is originally an herb and now also a homeopathic remedy for trauma. Physical trauma. So it could be falling down on the ice and getting a bruise. It could be a car accident. It could be surgery, you know, post-surgery to heal up. So probably more people find out about homeopathy from arnica than almost any other way.
And they make a rub out of it too, like a lotion for your shoulders or whatever.
Right.
Because
yes.
I have some at home.
All right. Well, good for you. That's great.
So arnica, let's take it, you know, from there. And so you just got started looking more into homeopathic remedies?
Well, so what I did was, at the time, there weren't very many places that you could get remedies. But one of the places was this little shop in South Minneapolis called Present Moment. It's still there, and they still have the largest retail selection of remedies in the whole country. But they also sell books. And so I thought, well, I might as well know what I'm doing. So I picked up 3 books. And one was a book on just the background of homeopathy, what it was. One was a book on how to treat your family and your children and so forth. And then I got a 3rd one on how to treat your dog because my dog was having some health issues. And so I bought those books and I read through them. And by the time I was done, I said, this is what I want to do.
That is very cool. And so is Present Moment. Been there many times.
Oh, yes.
35th and Grand.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been there a really long time. And they do have tons of remedies and tons of books. Just about anything you want metaphysical is in there.
Yes, that's for sure.
You can even get readings.
Yes, you can. You can.
So from the books, so what did you do for your dog?
Oh. It was a long time ago. I don't remember what I gave him.
And what was his ailment?
It was a digestive issue.
Okay.
He was just having some digestive issues.
As dogs will, you know,
Yes.
they eat just about anything in the
Right,
yard.
right. Yeah, they're not very discerning.
Not at all. And then from there, did you start taking classes or doing a deeper dive into getting qualified and getting your MA?
So what I did was, you know, I'd buy some more books and I'd read them. And I bought a small book which is called a repertory. And it's basically an index of symptoms and the remedies that are known to help those symptoms. And so I bought, you know, just a small home user's guide. And I really liked that. And I looked around for homeopathy schools, but they're, you know, the closest one was Denver.
Oh.
And then I had some health issues come up, and I started going to a homeopath myself. And shortly thereafter, he and his business partner started the Northwestern Academy of Homeopathy, which is where I ended up going to school. I was in their 3rd class.
Oh, right. Is that in the Northwestern building here in Bloomington?
Oh, everyone thinks that. But no, it's
because it says
not.
Northwestern, yeah.
Right,
okay.
right.
So, but it was in Minnesota.
Yes, it's in Minnesota,
local.
and
Okay.
it still is.
Okay.
Right, it's in Edina.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Yes,
that.
it's moved around a little bit over the years, as
Yeah.
a lot of businesses have.
A lot of people do.
Right, right.
Okay, yeah. So, what what kind of remedies are you working on, like most often for illnesses? Like, what am I trying to say? The most common thing that's going on
Oh, okay.
in today's world.
Well, you know, 4 or 5 years ago it was COVID, right? And everybody was focused on that and trying to find remedies that could help people. I just think it's important to bring that up, that even though this was something new, the symptoms were not new.
Mm-hmm.
And homeopathic remedies are chosen based on the symptoms that people are displaying. So even though the cause of the illness was new, the symptoms were not new. So we had all kinds of remedies that were available for that. You know, like one of the common ones was, you know, loss of taste and smell. Well, there's a bunch of remedies that cover that symptom.
Is there? Oh.
Yes, there are.
That's interesting. I didn't know once you lost that, you could get it back.
Yes, yes, you can.
Oh.
You definitely can. So fast forward to now, you know, that's an acute illness, which can turn into a chronic illness.
Mm-hmm.
But homeopaths can really help a lot of things. And some homeopaths will specialize in things, and others, you know, treat whatever walks in their door.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of a combination of that. I mean, if people need help and they contact me, you know, it might be that they have, you know, women's health issues, or it might be that their child just can't stop getting colds,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know,
Like
they don't
ear
sleep
infections?
well. Yeah, ear infections. You know, people might come and see a homeopath for insomnia or something like that. I mean, almost anything can be helped with homeopathy. I like to specialize in things for a number of reasons, so I really enjoy working with people who have PTSD and helping them recover from that, women's health issues, and then children on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
I help them as well. And so, but, you know, for example, I have a new client that I started seeing a couple of months ago, and I don't think he recognized or had been diagnosed that he had PTSD, but, and I don't diagnose people, but it sure seemed like it to me. And so, you know, it just doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, but it's helpful to specialize because it makes selecting a remedy easier.
Right. So is that something to do with the CEASE program that you created?
Okay, so the CEASE program was a program that was developed by a Dutch homeopath named Tinus Smits.
Oh.
And he died a few years ago, so he's not with us, but it's basically a homeopathic detox program where we can find out what might be the causative agent of whatever it is that somebody has, and we can actually have a remedy made from that substance. And by the way, that would just be a energetic dose of it, and we can talk about that in a second.
Sure.
But you know, by having an energetic exposure to it, it helps the body release whatever might be in there in the terms of a either physical or some sort of energetic imprint that people
So when
might
you
have.
say energetic, what do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is that the remedy goes through a process called potentization. And it's basically a 2-step process that gets repeated over and over again. And the first step is dilution, which we all understand. Mm-hmm. And the substance gets diluted a ratio of 1 in 100. So it would be 1 part of whatever the substance is to 99 parts of water.
Okay.
And then after that's, you know, been mixed together, then it gets wrapped against a hard surface 100 times.
Wow. Okay.
And just kind of an interesting little note about this, that my next door neighbor, until she retired, used to run a lab at 3M. And I was telling her about homeopathy and how the remedies were made and stuff, and she said, oh, it's that's called succussion. She said, it's the succussion that makes it work, isn't it? And I said, it is.
Ah.
And she said, well, anyone who knows anything about physics knows that if you wrap something against a hard surface, it will activate it.
So energetically, like electrically energized. is
I
that-
don't know if
is that-
electric is the word. I'm not sure what the word is. I don't want to, mislead
okay.
anyone. But so what happens is we then do this succussion, and then we take one part out, we put it in 99 parts of water, and we do it again. And then we do it again, and again, and again.
100 times?
It could be 10,000 times.
Oh, wow.
And the more it's done, the deeper it works. So when we dilute things, a ratio of 1 in 100, that's called a C potency, C being Roman numeral 100.
Oh, right.
Okay? And then there's a number in front of that, and it is like 30 C's are real common.
Yeah.
So that's been done 30 times. But if you follow Avogadro's number, once it's been done 12 times, it's all energy. And so anything beyond 12C is an energetic dose.
Wow. Okay. This is totally new for me. How interesting.
Yeah,
I love it.
It is.
Yeah.
And physicists, particularly material scientists, like my next door neighbor, are the ones who are the most interested in studying, why it is that this works. Some people can't wrap their head around why it works, and so they think it doesn't.
Yeah.
And honestly, we don't exactly know why it works, but we just know how to make it work.
Yeah.
So.
And you figured out how many times you need to do the wrapping
that
and
for the for the individuals. That's part of choosing the
okay.
remedy is
Yeah.
choosing also how potent does the remedy need to be.
Oh, I see.
Because the more times it goes through that process, the more potent it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is very interesting. Like, I'm not really a physics major.
I'm not either.
But that's but working in a lab's got to be super interesting too. So it's nice that you had somebody that you could actually discuss this with
Yes.
on a brain to brain.
Yes.
Nothing's going over her head. She's getting
Yeah, yes. It was really great to hear her say that.
Right.
And it was actually really helpful for me too, because
Yeah.
no one had ever explained it to me like that before.
So you got some validation in the
I did.
process as well.
I did.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I also read that you work a lot with vets.
Yes,
And
that's with
a
PTSD.
big, yeah. And is that specifically for vets, or is it just anybody with any kind of?
Well, anyone with PTSD or CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, where it was just, ongoing trauma over and over again.
Okay.
Right.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Okay.
And ongoing trauma, what would be the most common?
Well, the most common situation like that would be, being raised in a dysfunctional family.
And abuse. That
Yes,
sort of
and
thing.
abuse, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like lifelong abuse.
Yes.
Okay, so that will mess you up.
It will.
Yeah.
It will, yes.
So do you have a lot of vets that you work with, and are they from all backgrounds?
I've worked with a few of them. And I actually did a study in 2019, kind of a preliminary study, where I worked with several vets, and I also worked with civilians as well who had PTSD, and I worked with first responders too, because first responders, if you think about a first responder, no one calls a first responder except on the worst day of their life.
Right.
And so that's what their job is like, is being constantly exposed to people's worst day of their lives.
Yeah.
So it's a very common outcome for first responders as well.
And I imagine there's just like trauma going on, and very intense moments, because if somebody's choking, dying, on fire, a house is on fire or something,
Right.
and you have to constantly run into a burning building, I would see that build up quite quickly. And how do you work with them to release some of that?
Okay, so I work with them like I work with any client. And there's an intake process, and it lasts about an hour and 45 minutes. And so I find out about their chief complaint and what their symptoms are. And I know that, especially for PTSD, these symptoms can be very triggering. And so I try to be very gentle, and I don't have to, I need to know what happens, but mostly I need to know what are their physical sensations and what are their emotions, their feelings around what happened. So I only need to lightly touch on exactly what happened. So it's very much less traumatic than, you know, EMDR or something like that, where
sitting
you have
with
to
a
relive it
psychologist.
over and over and over
Yeah.
again. I don't need to do that to be able to find a good remedy for people.
Oh, that probably makes them feel a lot better, that they don't have to like tell the story again and again and again, because
Yes.
that just, like you said, is reliving that story and just adding to the component of stress. So
Yes.
I think sometimes when you're telling your story about what happened, it is easy for your mind to go back and revisit all of that all over again. It's especially if it's the C version of it, where it's, you know, you might go
Right.
home and be right back in it again.
Yes.
So
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. That's why a lot of people, you know, disassociate from their family of upbringing. It's
Yeah.
because it's just a triggering for them to go back.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we have this intake appointment, sometimes they leave with a remedy, and sometimes I need to research it and then mail them a remedy, or they can pick it up, whatever. It depends on where they live, related to where I'm at.
Right.
And then I have them take the remedy, you know, a specified number of times. But the nice thing about homeopathy is, you know, you don't have to take the remedy very often. If you have a lot of physical symptoms, sometimes it's helpful to take a really low potency frequently. But like with PTSD, you know, they maybe take it once a month.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and do they feel something immediately, or is it something that builds over time?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Sometimes people do feel it, you know, feel better almost immediately, but there can be a slight aggravation as well.
Oh, okay.
But you know, like during this study that I had, and I refer to the study because I have permission from these clients to talk about it. So, and their testimonials are on my website that you can read.
Yeah, that's
yes.
cool.
These, like the vets who have bad dreams, they don't have bad dreams anymore after, you know, a few doses of the remedy. You know, they stop waking their spouses up.
Oh.
You know, they stop, you know,
Yeah.
flinging themselves around in bed.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because
I have to get some of that for somebody I know.
yeah, there you go. You know, because you know there was probably some near-death experience.
Oh, yeah.
But it can also be a guilt
Yeah.
situation,
Especially for the vets.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I've had one person in my study that was really what his issue was.
Yeah, and
Is
who
it was
can blame
guilt.
them, you know?
Yeah.
What they go through and what, you know, they have to do for this country is, you know, pretty horrific.
Yeah.
If you're on the front lines, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, good for you. I'm glad that you take care of the vets, because I think they're very underserved.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Well,
sure.
let's talk more about specific remedies that kind of are your favorites for certain things that you really get the good. Do you have any stories like that where you see stuff happen right away and?
Okay. Well, that
get-
would be more in acute type situations.
Oh, okay.
And even then, they need to be well chosen.
Okay.
You know, and I talked about arnica right
Yeah.
away, and you know that's everyone's favorite. Everyone thinks that arnica is a substitute for aspirin or Tylenol or you know Advil or something, and it's not. You know, I mean it's a substitute for a situation where maybe there's some physical trauma where you might take those. But you know, if it's like a chronic backache, no, that's not going to help.
Right, right.
So
So how does it actually work? I mean, you're making like a tincture?
okay, so I do not make the remedies.
Oh,
I buy them from a dispensary.
oh, okay.
And you know, it's a pharmacy, and remedies are regulated by the FDA, and they have to be made under certain conditions.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I order them. And I do not go through that process
Are
myself.
they tinctures though? Or
No, they are not tinctures. Tinctures are generally material doses of something, which means it hasn't been gone through a potentization process.
Oh, I
and they're
see.
just preserved in alcohol.
Oh.
Or, you know, maybe glycerin or something if people want an alcohol-free thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But ours go through this whole process. And so it ends up, you know, in the last step, it ends up being potentized in alcohol.
Okay.
And then we take the liquid and we put it on pellets that are made from sucrose, and it's an 85% alcohol base, because that will not melt the pellets.
Oh, okay.
If it's just in water, the pellets
Right.
would melt,
Right.
and we don't want that. So we put it on the pellets, and you just shake it up. It's in a little vial, and they count out pellets in the lid, and they pop it in their mouth, and they take it.
Okay, so pellets, like very, very small.
Very, very small.
Yeah. Okay. And they know exactly how many they're supposed to take.
Because I tell them, yes.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about that is it actually doesn't matter how many they take. In homeopathy, what matters is the repetition, not the number of pellets. So you can just take 1 or 2 little pellets, and it has the same oomph as 15 pellets. But if you take those 15 pellets 3 at a time, that's 5 doses.
Sure.
That will have a different impact than taking 15 pellets at one time.
Then it's 15 pellets at one time.
Is 1 dose.
Is one dose, and that's pretty common?
Oh no, it isn't
okay.
common. I'm just
Okay.
using that as an example,
Gotcha.
to kind of to demonstrate what I mean is that homeopathy works, more on the principle of repetition and not on number of pellets or quantity of pellets.
So what about people with addiction?
Okay, yes. Well, certainly a lot of people with PTSD have an addiction.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the people in my study was an EMT.
Oh.
And she said she could only get through the day by having almost a whole bottle of wine every night.
Oh my.
And it is not that way anymore. So the addiction, we dealt with the root cause of the addiction.
Okay, and she also did the pellets, and
Yep.
then
Of the remedy that matched her symptom picture.
that sounds too easy.
Well, it isn't always easy.
We're making it sound easy. But how do you get to that root cause? Or do they come in and admit I'm addicted to a bottle of wine a night sometimes too?
Sure, that they will admit that through the intake appointment. I mean, it isn't very.
So they have to disclose.
They have to
a little
disclose
bit
it.
anyway.
Well, and they have a 6-page questionnaire or so that they fill out. And I do ask about alcohol use and how frequently. And some people will be honest, and some people won't. Just like any other healthcare practitioner has that happen.
Exactly.
But because I spend so much time with them, they get comfortable enough, generally speaking, to be honest.
Okay.
Over time.
Yeah, I like it.
And if they're not, or if I know that they're lying, well, that's a symptom too.
Right. Well, there are chronic liars out there.
That's true. That is true.
I still am trying to wrap my head around why some people, I mean, it's crazy, but it's not part of this conversation.
Right.
Some people will lie for just about anything. No reason.
Right,
no real
right.
reason.
Well, they're it's a pathology for them.
Yeah.
For sure.
And is that something you can
Well, I
work
mean,
on
it
as
is
well?
it is a symptom in our repertory.
Yeah,
That book I was telling you about of symptoms is
Right.
definitely in there, and there's definitely a lot of remedies and that are known to help that symptom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, do we want to? What do we want to talk about next? What would you like to bring up?
Okay, well, I think one thing that's important is the word homeopathy, and homeopathy means similar suffering.
Similar suffering.
Homeo meaning similar, and pathy meaning suffering, and that phrase was coined by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who is the founder of the principles of homeopathy.
Oh.
And he discovered it quite by accident again. So he was an MD, and he was disgusted by the medical practices of his time. This was in the 1700s. He's a German physician. And so rather than treating patients, he would translate medical textbooks because he spoke 6 or 7 languages. He was brilliant. And over in Europe, every country had its own language, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes he would find things in these medical textbooks that didn't make any sense to him. And so he would put a footnote in the bottom of the book and say, well, this doesn't make sense to me, and here's why. Which, as you can imagine, did not endear him very much to people.
Yeah.
But aside from that, one of the things that he found in one of the medical textbooks was something that was written that said that the reason that quinine was so effective at treating malaria is because it was so bitter. And we still use quinine in Western medicine to treat malaria.
We do, yes.
And to have a gin and tonic, right? Because quinine is in there too.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was curious about why it worked, because he said, you know, being a chemist as well as a physician, he said, I know 5 substances more bitter than quinine and they don't touch malaria, so that cannot be the reason why. And so curiosity getting the better of him, he took a dose of quinine just to see what would happen. And what happened was he developed the symptoms of malaria. He did not develop malaria, he developed the symptoms of malaria.
Wow.
And that includes, for those people who don't know it, because we don't really have malaria in the U.S. anymore, but it's a lot of intermittent fevers and aches and pains, that fevers come and go, come and go.
Yeah, and sometimes very, very bad fevers.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. But, you know, if you don't have the protozoa that gets passed on to you from the mosquito bite, you don't have malaria. So he had the symptoms of malaria. And what he discovered was if he gave quinine to people who already had those symptoms, it would heal those symptoms. But if he gave it to someone who did not have those symptoms, himself,
yeah,
he developed those symptoms.
Well, that is crazy.
And that's how homeopathy works. And so we do what are called provings by giving people, healthy people, newly made homeopathic remedies. We don't use the material dose like he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we give them material or a remedy, and we have them, it will develop certain symptoms, and then they take record of their symptoms. And usually there's 15, 20 people who do it at the same time, and lo and behold, a pattern emerges. So we know that if a patient walks in with that pattern, they are the ones, that's the remedy we need to give them.
Way cool.
Yeah, and there's been provings of, 8,000 substances.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you've really got everything covered.
Right.
Well, let's talk for a minute, because we're running out of time, but I
Okay.
really do want to talk about this, about what happened to natural medicine and why we're able to get back to natural medicine again. Is that where would you be willing to go there with me?
Sure. Do you
Because,
have a more specific question that you want to ask?
Well, just the Rockefeller, institution that went through and, demonized anything that was natural so that he could put his product in there, which is petroleum, and then bought off all the universities to only teach his stuff. So so it's been demonized for so long, and homeopaths were demonized.
Yes, they
You're
were.
called witch doctors.
Right.
So how did that all get overcome to where we can talk live and open on air about this topic?
Well, some people would still say I shouldn't talk about it, but yeah, there was something that was put out there called the Flexner Report. And the Flexner Report was, boy, I can't remember all the details anymore about who ordered it, but it had to do with the Rockefellers. And they basically closed down all the homeopathic medical colleges in the United States. And they, homeopathy was sort of like practiced in hiding.
Yeah.
And,
It's like voodoo or witch doctor stuff.
Right, right.
Demonized.
And you can, you can't patent natural substances. I mean, you can to a certain degree. Like,
have
if
to
you
mix it.
develop a certain plant, for example, you can patent a plant that you have hybridized.
Right, right.
So there are certain things that, but homeopathic remedies can't be patentized. And so, so that was part of the deal, is that they wanted to make more money on what they call patent medicine. That's what they used to call, pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Patent medicine. And so, people were kind of doing this behind this, the scenes and not being really noticed. And there were some homeopaths, though, who still practiced and still spoke out. And, one of them was George Vathulkas, who was a Greek homeopath, and a lot of his materials came here. And then, the old books like Dr. Kent and of course, Samuel Hahnemann. Dr. Kent was an American homeopath. And, in Minnesota, we had a naturopathic doctor, Helen Healy, who was also practicing homeopathy, and she was charged with practicing medicine without a license by the Attorney General at that time in Minnesota, who was Skip Humphrey. And he got so many calls from her patients that they dropped the case.
Wow, see?
And
Power of people.
Power of the people, that is correct. And a group of people formed then to figure out, well, what was the best way to allow people, and not just homeopaths, but naturopaths and herbalists and massage therapists.
Everybody, yeah.
You know, there was, what was her name? The nun who was also a massage therapist, and they tried to arrest her for doing massage therapy. You know, I'm afraid I can't remember her name. At any event, so they got together and they created what became Minnesota Statute 146A. 214 is a different one that's relevant. But so Minnesota Statute 146A, which allows people such as myself to practice, and it allows the people to access practitioners.
Right.
So it wasn't just a practitioner remedy, it was also a law. It is a consumer law as well.
Right.
And that was really important in order to get it passed, is that it wasn't just focusing at the practitioners, but also focusing at the consumers, because consumers wanted it.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's really how it came back, is because consumers wanted it. So we were the first state in the country that had this natural health law that's called a safe harbor law. So as long as we are doing things that are safe and not doing things like surgery and drugs, which are not safe,
right.
You don't need a license to practice.
Well, that's
yeah.
awesome, because you know, you guys do so much good, and you only have good in your heart. So it's, you know, I'm just glad that things came back to, you know, common sense.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Well, we're out of time, and I want to thank you again, but before we sign off, would you tell everybody how to get a hold of you? Your website name is Lotus, why don't you tell us, because it's not written here.
Okay. I can be found at www.lotushomeopathy.com, and I'll spell that.
Okay.
LOTUSHOMEOPATHY.com. One word. No spaces.
Yeah, very good.
And they can read a little bit about me. I have a blog out there with lots of posts in it. And I have, you know, explaining things about homeopathy. I have stories about women's health, for example. I've got a section about my story of my women's health issues that I had and how those got solved with homeopathy. So
that's so awesome. Yep, I'm going to go back and do a deeper dive, because I generally don't do that beforehand, because I want to learn from you while you're here. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you for being here at Real People. We'll see you next time. Bye now.